The mother killed herself to save the children's lives from a monster. The story begins in a dense and mysterious forest, where a woman lives with her 2 young sons. The night was not quiet. The next morning, she gathers with her sons around the table. While sharing their modest meal, they discuss the mysterious forest. The mother makes a bold decision: the 3 of them will explore this forest to look for food. Supplies are becoming scarce, and she hopes that this expedition will provide them with answers about these disturbing phenomena. They each tie a rope around their waist, the sacred rope that their mother always told them never to let go, because it would protect them from the spirits that haunt these woods. In this 2 children, we have Samuel the eldest, and Nolan the second. They also have a dog. The mother takes an arrow bow to go into the forest. They separate to cover more ground, each taking a different path, while remaining connected by the rope. While they are exploring, the woman spots an old man standing near her. He seems to be whispering warnings, but before she can understand his words, he disappears into the shadows. The woman continues on her way. On the children's side, Samuel also explores the forest. He tries to shoot a squirrel but does not reach it. Nolan climbs up a tree to look for eggs but can't find any. Arrived a few pars, he finds an egg but his rope is limited. His brother comes to find it. Nolan wants to take it, but Samuel holds him back by reminding him of their mother's warnings. The brother wants to detach himself from the rope. Nolan wants to whistle his mother to warn her. Reluctantly, Nolan abandons the egg and returns to his mother. On the way back, an incident occurs. Samuel hears a whisper that seems to come from Nolan, but his brother claims not to have said anything. Nolan deliberately tramples on his big brother's wire and he falls and the rope is no longer on his hip. Nolan immediately whistles to draw their mother's attention to this incident that has just happened, and she runs to reattach the rope and bring her sons to safety. The demon in the form of their mother-in-law pursues them, but the mother and the children manage to tie themselves together in the rope before the monster reaches them. When they have this rope, the demon can no longer see them. Arriving at the house, the mother makes them enter the sacred box. They pray to them by touching the wood of their house, which is sacred. It is to know who is possessed. The mother then blames Nolan for this mistake, which could cost his brother and himself their lives. The mother is treating her brother for his injury. Samuel was lucky. Arrived at the house, the family settles down for dinner. The mother, gravely concerned, then tells her sons the origin of this strange rope and the threats of the forest. She emphatically reminds them that they must never untie this rope, because it alone protects them from the invisible demons that lurk. When night comes, while the children are sleeping, the woman is disturbed by the spectral apparition of her husband, who has long since died. His face is marked by pain, and he seems to want to warn her of something. Her fleeting appearance leaves her upset and terrified. In the morning, she and Nolan work together, planting young trees to ensure that the forest continues to feed them. The younger son is worried about their future in this house and asks if there is another safe place where they could live. Her mother assures her that this forest protects them, but a shadow of doubt crosses her gaze. The days pass, and food becomes more and more scarce. The mother is looking for game but can't find any. He begins to eat tree bark, but this is not enough for them due to lack of vitamin content. One evening, the mother makes a heartbreaking decision: they will have to sacrifice Coda, their dog, to survive. But Nolan fiercely opposes this idea, being very attached to his companion. An argument breaks out between the mother and her son. The mother takes and brings him to the barn to kill him, but she does not succeed in taking action given her attachment to this dog. Nolan arrives very angry. He explains to his mother that these demons are just illusions, and threatens to cut the rope. The mom tells him not to make this mistake, but he just goes to his head and cuts the rope while locking his mother in the barn. While she is drumming on the door begging her son to listen to her, a demon appears, threatening to possess the woman. Samuel quickly arrives to save his mother, but Nolan prevents him. A battle breaks out. Desperate, she makes one last gesture to protect her children. She sacrifices herself, preferring to die rather than see the monster possess her and make her hurt her sons. Samuel manages to neutralize his brother, but it's already too late. His mother is already dead. He's trying to put the rope on her. Nolan realizes too late the seriousness of his act. The mother is dead, and the two boys are now alone, the rope their only protection. Devastated by remorse, Nolan reattaches the rope around his waist, deciding to follow his mother's advice. Together with his brother, they tie several meters of rope to make their way through the forest, hoping to find help. After a long walk, they arrive on an asphalt road, and Nolan calls for help, desperate. Having found nothing, Nolan returns to the house, but a man shows up in front of their house. He introduces himself as Call, a hiker who says he heard their call. However, when Call asks about the death of their mother, Samuel becomes suspicious and points his bow in the direction of the man. In a terrible confusion, Samuel releases an arrow that reaches Call. Before dying, the man manages to dial an emergency number. Nolan follows him and retrieves the man's bag, containing some food, and draws new hope from it. He understands that they are not alone in the world, but Samuel, always faithful to their mother's warnings, believes that the forest is all they have. One evening, when Samuel, hungry, finally decides to eat, he discovers in Call's bag a card, a photo, and a flashlight. Intrigued, he goes out alone to explore the barn where their mother had died with a torch, when he hears a noise coming from the barn. There he finds a little girl who seems to have escaped from the forest. She reveals to him that her father, the deceased Call, had come to look for her. The girl runs away from it. Disturbed, Samuel follows her, forgetting the protective rope. But it doesn't take long for him to understand his mistake. The girl suddenly disappears. Her rope has got mixed up with the trees. Samuel removes it from his hip, a serious mistake. A snake wraps around his body, slowly suffocating him, and he understands that it was just a demonic illusion. And the snake probably invaded him. He shouts his brother's name in the hope of alerting him, but the darkness answers for him. He tries to free himself, but it's too late. Nolan wakes up with a start and goes in search of Samuel. He discovers his brother, possessed by an evil entity, trying to kill him. A desperate battle ensues. He manages to escape his possessed brother, but he sets the house on fire to force him out of the house. While trying to run away from the fire, he sees his mother on the other side. He realizes that it is not his mother but the spirit who has possessed this body. In the meantime, his brother is also waiting for him outside. He thinks about everything his mother told him about this spirit that is afraid of the box. In a last-ditch effort to save his brother, Nolan traps his mother's spirit with him in the old box and recites the prayers they used to do for deliverance. The fierce struggle continues in this wooden box, supposedly a prison for evil spirits. In an act of bravery, Nolan seals his mother's spirit in the demon in the box, which is destroyed, finally freeing his brother from the yoke of possession. At this moment, help finally arrives. The children are rescued by a helicopter and transported to a safe place. The children are finally free to leave the forest, united by the memory of their mother and by the promise to continue living for her. He sees his brother on the other side in the same helicopter. Her heart finally calms down.